That's my kind of thing.
No, you're not there yet.
That's for the end of the show.
You don't get
it's part of the show.
You don't get the cart before the horse.
Well,
or
you don't know me. Very
whatever that
I
is.
usually jump on the cart while I'm kicking the horse's ass.
That's it.
How do you feel about Nashville traffic? Let's talk about that.
Well, are we starting?
It doesn't matter. It's fine.
Well,
We're fine.
I met with the mayor's office yesterday.
Did
They've
you?
got a plan to change it. We don't get involved in local issues, but it starts.
But you're tired of it. And you know a guy.
Well, how bad is yours? How bad's your commute?
I live in Nolensville, and it took me an hour.
Wah.
It took me an hour to get from
I live in
Nolens.
Las Casas.
What?
Oh, I know where
It's
that
an
is.
hour and a half to 2 hours each way every day.
Why don't you live closer?
Alicia,
Mm.
I met her, and one of us had to move.
I mean,
was me,
that,
boys.
That
You
is
lost
the love right there, bro. Taco.
You lost the rock, paper, scissors.
17 years of continuing love, which I have to remind her.
Yeah.
by the way, on a
Oh,
daily
you remind her of the
basis.
years?
I remind her of the drive.
That's a drive, man.
No, but we met with some people from the mayor's office, and their plan has a half-cent added to the sales tax, and some people will oppose that. I personally, and the NSAI does not take a position on local issues, think it's a smart first approach. It does three basic things. It synchronizes 660 traffic lights downtown.
Oh,
That's going to be a game changer.
that's a game changer
In
right
cities
there.
where they've done that. Did you ever see that movie, The Italian Job?
I have.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of those boards.
Yes, sir.
Where
Yeah.
they look at it, part of it's automated, and they change it. More parking and more bus transportation.
Some high
But
school
the
kids going to get in there and hack
synchronization-
it.
I mean, they're predicting 15, 20 minutes.
That's a game
from
changer.
Bellevue.
Even I live in Brentwood, so even on Old Hickory Boulevard, if you would just sync up those lights,
Just saying.
I just all at once. Let's all go at once.
You go down, what is it, Wedgwood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
in the
Wedgwood.
morning, and your four lights, there's your only car there, but you got to sit and wait for every
Yep.
light. So I think it is a smart first.
That's brilliant.
Smart first.
I
love that.
That's a start to it. Now, I complain just about every day when I get here about Nashville. Like I said, I live in Brentwood, which is not that far away. If I leave at a certain time in the morning, I'm here within, 10, 15 minutes. When I leave here this afternoon after this podcast, it's going to take me an hour to get home.
Yeah.
And I've resolved myself to the fact that I'm going to be angry.
Well,
But it's okay. It's okay, Bart.
It's a lot, and I come in either on 24 or 40. 24 is insane.
Oh,
Those
it's the
people.
worst.
I mean, I need to bide my words.
No, it's fine.
Are you kidding me?
I call it the Fast and
If you're
Furious
not
Highway.
paying attention every day, on the way home in particular, I'm like, man, I barely missed that one. But
yeah.
you got to, and it's just, it takes a lot out of
It's a head on a swivel.
It really is.
I drive, like, my daughter plays volleyball at Union University in Jackson, Tennessee.
I'm from Paris, West Tennessee
yep.
boy. If she ever needs anything, the guy I gave his first job to in radio years ago, Kyle Spurgeon, runs the Jackson, Tennessee Chamber. Call on him, say Bart told you.
I
to.
am definitely going to do
Okay.
that. So we go down. We went this past weekend to her volleyball game down at the Fred in Jackson, Tennessee, Union University, the Bulldogs.
Go
Cool little
Bulldogs.
school, by the way.
It is.
Always has
It's a
been.
cool little campus. Jackson's it's a nice little town. They've got some stuff. They've got a Freddy's Burgers. They've got
do
an
have a
Oscar's
Freddy's.
Taco Shop. But the Interstate 40, it needs to be like another lane or two.
You're preaching to the choir.
I mean, 24 has 18 lanes. However, you got to keep your head on a
However,
swivel.
between here and Murfreesboro,
Oh, my
especially
Lord.
after you do the split,
Yeah.
those exits, people come off that ramp at 85
They do.
miles an hour.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's like, oh, excuse me. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
I was in a good mood when I came over here, boys.
Welcome to Twangtown.
No, I do think it is look, quality of life matters.
Yeah.
And it matters to this industry. And I do think this is a good start
Yeah.
to synchronize the traffic lights. Duh.
I
It
completely
will help
agree.
tremendously. Yeah.
I am your host, David Tolliver, and that is
And I'm Colt Mirsky.
Tall.
What's your Brangelina name?
My what?
Y'all's Tomsky?
Tomsky.
Your Brangelina name.
Oh, do we have one?
You need one, man.
David.
COVID.
Tursky.
That's it. It's Tursky. Call Old Dominion.
I love
it's
it.
Tursky.
Oh,
Yes.
welcome to Twangtown. We have today.
Bart Herbison.
Oh my gosh! Sound effects.
we have four.
up here.
We have
Really?
four.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to go through the whole panoply.
We are so fancy, Bart.
If I've got to earn them,
Is
including
he-
this wheel.
Are you going to use words that I don't understand the whole time?
Well, when he threw me off when he said the Brangelina name, I was like, I haven't heard that one in a minute.
What was that?
It is Tursky, though, right?
Mertsky? Turdsky. I think we are Turdsky.
He put a D in on it.
I'm in.
I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
that.
I'm in.
Our names don't blend well.
I'm going to cough the whole time.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Allergies are a thing right now.
well, it's not allergies.
Oh, COVID.
I've been on antibiotics for a week and a half now, but we went to Portugal, Jenna and I, and the whole time we were over there, she was sick. Bless her
Lippens on her
heart.
stallions.
What's that?
The Lippens on her stallions.
Lippens on her stuff.
In Portugal, the horses. The famous. You
Oh,
didn't see the
thank you.
horses?
No, I didn't see any horses. Saw a lot of cigarettes.
I only know that because I watched, what was that Denzel, Gene Hackman movie? That's where they get in an argument over the name of those
Oh,
horses.
what was that movie?
Crimson Tide?
Oh, yeah, Crimson Tide. Yeah.
Yes, it
Gosh,
was.
I haven't seen that in forever.
No, we went to Lisbon, and there's a lot of hills and cigarette butts. And then we went to Porto. It's a lot of hills. Madeira's beautiful. It's not one of the islands. But anyway, we went over there, and Jenna was sick the whole time. Bless her heart. And I was like, I didn't get sick. I'm like, I'm great.
But
Jet lag, when we got back, my body got run down, and here we go.
Yeah, you sit in that airplane long enough. You're gonna
Man,
get
I tell
something.
you what, it's there's a lot of airplanes. We did like 9 flights while we were over there.
What?
Well, the thing about Madeira is you fly from the mainland Portugal to Madeira. It's an hour and a half, 2 hours from Lisbon. Now, Madeira's airport is one of the most dangerous ones to come into, and because of the winds. They have to come down quick, and the winds will sweep you out to sea.
I don't like it.
Oh, it's ridiculous. The runway is a bridge too. Half the runway's a bridge. So
Even better.
There's like a comedy of errors that can happen. But
is there a transportation theme going on here today?
No.
Oh, my God.
We always start off with transportation issues.
so we fly from Lisbon to Madeira. We get over Madeira. I'm looking at the island. We've circled it 3 times now. And the pilot starts to go down and then back up. He goes, well, we're 6th in line right now. We're not going to get into Madeira today. We have to go back to Lisbon.
Oh my
so they
gosh.
took us back to Lisbon. This happens all the time there. There's a certain amount of wind that is safe for them. They let people land. They used to not have this, which is it's much safer now. Go on YouTube and look at landing in Madeira.
Yeah.
So anyway, we
don't-
flew back to Lisbon.
I don't need any more anxiety in my life.
Oh God, it was chaos. We ended up having to take a train 4 hours to Porto because we couldn't get a flight. They didn't rebook Jen on a flight. They booked me like at midnight the next day.
Wow.
It was chaos.
Good
we ended up
times.
getting to Madeira, which was beautiful.
Huh.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, welcome to Portugal. We're to Portugal. Paris, Tennessee. Is that Perry County?
Rom, Georgia. Athens, Texas.
Yeah.
And there. It's Henry County.
It's Henry County.
If you're looking at the top of the state of Tennessee, Tennessee River trisects it. It's the first county past the Tennessee River in West Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's that little hump.
Yeah.
It borders Kentucky.
Oh, yeah. The hump.
Kentucky.
Bought 6 acres up there at Cottage Grove, boys.
All right.
You ought to see my pond. And do you fish?
I fish constantly.
You don't want to see my pictures.
I don't.
Oh, boy.
I'd love to come fish in your pond, Bart.
You're going to have to earn that.
You're up there. You're up there
We'll
next
put
to.
that on the wheel.
Yeah.
We're up
Fishing
there.
trip at
You're
Bart's
next to the greatest state in the union.
Kentucky?
Yes,
I
by
love
far.
Kentucky. I am up straight up the Mayfield Highway.
Oh yeah.
Mayfield's Tri-Cities is 4 miles from this property. Mayfield's 18.
Mayfield.
maybe.
They just had the tornadoes
And then Murray's off to the right.
a couple years ago. Yeah, yeah. I was born and raised Eastern Kentucky,
Where?
over in Hazard.
Oh, yeah.
Hindman, actually, just outside of
Swear,
Hazard,
that's
Kentucky.
Some rough ground. You got to learn your verbs over there.
You got to draw some shit out over there, man.
Throwing it down there.
We go down there to
It gets
trade,
real.
Ramon.
It
Yeah.
gets real.
It's definitely real. A lot of music over there, though. What
Yeah.
you grew up in Paris, Tennessee?
Sure did.
What did you? What did you want to do? I don't know.
Well, here's my backstory.
Talk to me, Goose.
I was 4+ years old. My late uncle Billy Pullen, they called me Barty. Come here a minute, Barty. And he played me "That's When Your Heartaches Begin" by Elvis. And one way or another, I've been around music ever since. I was a kid DJ. I was in radio at the age of 16. Did that till I was 29. Gravitated from the music side to news. And you know Byron Gallimore, Tim's producer.
Produced my first record. Actually produced our record on Universal.
From there.
Yep.
From Puryear, Tennessee. I'm from Cottage Grove. And my mentor, who just passed away, shout out to the late L. Don Ridgway, called us one night and said the guy running for governor, our state representative, didn't like his commercial. So Byron wrote the music, and I did the voice part, and his name was Ned McWherter. He knows the way, the Tennessee way was that commercial. He hired me. He brought me from a small daytime radio station in Paris to become, and this was way over my head to tell the truth, the deputy director of communications for the state of Tennessee. At the age of 29, but figured it out. And a couple years later, I don't like politics, but I like government. And back then you could still govern. There was still some bipartisanship. You could still do things together, which is damn near impossible these days. But the congressman from Nashville, Bob Clement, part of a political dynasty in Tennessee, came and asked for some help one day on something. I helped him. He offered me a job. At first, I didn't take it because I said I want to do the music issues too, and somebody was doing that. And tough story for him. This guy passed away in just a few weeks of inoperable brain cancer. And that opened the door, and that was my first job in D.C., my only job in D.C. My first meeting in D.C. was the Nashville Songwriters Association International. I grew up with a famous songwriter named Jimmy Stewart. Yeah. He wrote A Little Less Talk, Brotherly Love, right over here at the Music Mill. He was signed at Pier and then over here at the Music Mill. And I always wanted to do something for songwriters. That had to be the worst meeting in the history of NSAI. Fun trivia question. 2 white guys in the disco era.
Yeah.
That's the question. Anybody? KC.
The Sunshine Band.
And Peter McCann.
Okay.
Wow. Do you want to make love? Or do you just want to fool around? That was Peter. And he was a real copyright historic scholar. He, and at the time, Kevin Lamb, publisher, ran Maypop Music, and they came to see me. I have no idea what they said, and I'm sure they went like, oh, my God, this is the new guy from Nashville, because I kept going, you do what? There's a Songwriters Association. I literally said a prayer. That day I said, Lord, let this be my next and my last job. And that happened to me 27 years ago.
Wow.
So that was my path to
holy shit.
That's amazing.
Across the street over here, yeah.
Yeah. I know Byron very well. I didn't know you guys. I knew he was from that area. He always called himself a dirt farmer. Yeah.
Byron back then, what was that band? Byron was always in music since birth. It's a really musical place. I think a lot of small towns are. What else are you going to do?
There's nothing else to do.
Yeah. But there are some famous writers from around there. Jackie DeShannon's from the state line over there. So there's a little bit of a history there.
Nice.
Mick Dill's from not far from there.
Yeah.
So what year did you start working at NSAI?
1997.
Okay.
August of 97.
That's the year before I moved to Nashville.
How about that?
I don't know.
So what was NSAI like before you took over? And then once you took over, I know you had your own objectives that you wanted to accomplish. What were those and how did you accomplish them?
Well, that's there's a long answer to that question. I'll condense it. You have to go back to 1967 when we were founded. There were only 80 songwriters in this town. 80.
Wow.
And 42 got together to form the Nashville Songwriters Association. That had been tried before. It just never took. But there were a couple of families, Liz and Casey Anderson, Lynn Anderson's parents, and Felice and Boodle O'Brien, that were having a lot of hits in Bakersfield and both country, but pop hits too, the Everly Brothers and all that. That gave us a cross-genre appeal to songwriters beyond just Nashville and country. And they were so smart the way they founded this. Their first issue was just to get the writers' names on the records. That took 4 years.
Unreal.
But in 1970, late 70, 71, it was announced all the labels globally would do that. Now, the font was about that big, but what it did do was let the writer community know if you stay focused and organized, you can change things. Mm-hmm. So when I came along, there was sort of we were evolving and establishing more of a legislative presence, and that's why they hired me. We had a couple things going on then. The challenge always, and it still remains for not-for-profit, to fund the organization. So what's our first bill? What are we going to do? I said, we're doing nothing. And so for the first couple of years, we trimmed the fat, we changed some programs, and we built up a budget to be able to afford to compete on a pretty big playing field. We also had something called the Fairness in Music Licensing Act going on. It was the most unfair thing ever. It's why we don't get paid in 98% of America's restaurants for rebroadcast radio music. We had a big victory there. There's a lady around town named Lauren Lucas. I don't know if you
I know Lauren very well.
Lauren was 14 years old at the time, attending Strom Thurmond Junior High School in Carolina. And Chuck Cannon knew her. His late wife, Laurie White, was working with her. RCA was looking at Lauren when she was 14, 15 years old. She went to Strom Thurmond Junior High. Strom Thurmond was the banking chairman. We had a visit, and she appealed to Strom. She just said, I want to do this, Senator, and, they're going to take all this money away from restaurants and this, that, or the other. It's always under assault, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to be paid for being a songwriter or an artist. Newt Gingrich was the Speaker of the House, who was behind this Fairness in Music Licensing Act. One of the proudest moments of my life. Gingrich called him and said, got Spake on the phone. His aides lost their mind looking at me because they went, don't get involved in this. Gingrich comes on the phone. He's got him on the speakerphone. And he goes, that music thing stops at 3,750 square feet. And Mr. Gingrich is going, but he said, you want your banking bill? He hung up the phone. So Lauren Lucas is why we get paid in any American restaurants.
This is incredible.
But it helped give us a seat at the table.
I've never heard this.
Then the first thing we ever really changed, and it's a long-winded story I won't get into. It take up the whole podcast.
Amazing.
Songwriters, when they sold a catalog for years, got the capital gains tax treatment. Mm-hmm. But due to some weird politics in 1951, that involved Dwight Eisenhower and Groucho Marx, it got removed. Okay, here's the short story. Eisenhower's running for president, and he's going to win, but he doesn't have any money. He's been a soldier his whole life. So he writes a series of memoirs, 3 books called Crusade in Europe, his life story. Sells the first one outright to a book publisher for the then princely sum of $750,000. That'd be worth 20 times that in today's money. But he makes a mistake. Summer of 1951, the election's in November, and somebody asked him in a public interview, how's the funding going? He goes, I'm about to sell another one of these books. Democrats control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. I don't think so. And they rushed through a one-sentence bill that history now calls the Eisenhower Rules. And it says book authors may not claim that special tax rate if they wrote the book. Republicans are livid, as they should have been, because it's very political. And by the way, NSAI's neither party. We're not Republican or Democrat. We're the songwriter party. Help us, we love you. Not?
Yep.
We don't. So, after a couple days, the Republicans come back, equally political, and say, we're going to help you with your bill. Now, wait a minute. You're going to help us mess over Dwight Eisenhower. And why this was important, that tax rate was somewhere in the high teens. The top income tax rate then was 92%. Taxes are still too high today, but 92%. Reagan changed that.
Yeah.
That is wild.
And there would have been no money left.
No.
So
not even worth selling.
We've got some conditions, though. If you include songwriters, painters, and inventors. And the reason for that was McCarthy-era blacklist politics. Are you now, have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? Noted composers George Kaufman and Ira Gershwin were organizing against McCarthy on both coasts. And Groucho Marx enters the picture. He has a music publishing company, mostly for film and TV. The Marx brothers owned a lot of film and TV projects. Forget the name of the movie, but they portray Joseph McCarthy as Hitler. They dress him up, a little mustache, the swarthy little Joe McCarthy, and they lose their minds. Painters, because of Salvador Dali, he was an avowed communist. And he was starting to sell lithographs. Inventors, we have no idea how. So it passes. So now book authors, songwriters, painters, and inventors cannot claim capital gains. All other intellectual property occupations can. From January 1951 until we changed it and it went into effect, we reverted it, we got it back after 7.5 years of long, hard work. And we posited it's double taxation. The songwriters already paid normal income tax, FICA, Medicare, Social Security on all these royalties. If they sell their catalog, that's their business they're selling. Like any other business, they should be eligible for capital gains. Congress agreed. We passed it unanimously. I'm not saying that is the reason song catalogs have exploded, but
it sure does help.
Multiples went from almost nothing to people going, what's this really worth?
Yeah.
And that put us on the map.
Yeah.
If you think it's hard to change copyrights, go change the tax code.
Yeah, no
And
thanks.
that's what really made NSAI.
And that was 2006.
We finally passed it. We started
Yeah.
it in 99, passed in 06, became effective January 107.
It's amazing.
Wow.
How long?
Songwriters Capital Gains Tax Equity.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bart deserves one of these.
Oh, number 2.
Yeah. Well, it's the same one, but twice. Yeah.
We got 3.
You don't
more
want
to
the other
go.
ones. The
No.
other ones are kind of disparaging.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bronx Cheers. All right.
You got to tell a joke.
How do you get a Megan into music?
That's the joke in itself, yeah.
Start with 5. There we go. Sadly, that's too true these days.
Oh, it's,
Yeah.
yeah. No, thank you for everything you do for us.
Well, I lead that charge. Got to credit the 27 songwriter member board of NSAI and my colleague Jennifer Turnbow. We do all this in lockstep. And the guy I look up to, David Israelite, who runs the National Music Publishers Association.
Yeah.
We don't always agree. When we disagree, we close the door, and we've always managed to work it out for those we represent. But 98% of the time we do.
Yeah.
And when we're aligned, we have slayed some giants.
Yes, you have.
Well, speaking of which, recently, I guess, did it pass in 2018 or did you start it in 2018, the Music Modernization Act?
We did. It passed October of 2018.
Yes.
It became law.
So tell us about why that came about and what it's doing now that it's passed into law.
Well, this is part of my challenge, is to go to Congress and explain an onion full of layered things that have evolved over 100 years, and then a solution. The shortest version is, for the most part, songwriters are under complete government control on everything except film and TV placement, under ridiculous rules from 1909 that are a race to the bottom. We're the only ones under what I call a mandated federal maximum wage. Record labels are not. For the most part, there's one exception, they negotiate in the free market. So there were 3 terrible rules that happened to songwriters in 1909. Edison invents sound. We're under a Queen Anne version of copyright law, and it's got to change. How do we pay for this recorded music? So songwriters get put under 3 terrible rules. Number 1, the government will set our rates. It should be negotiated in the free market.
Agreed.
Number 2, under a standard of evidence that says, this is why one of the royalties, songwriters get a performance royalty when their song is performed live or on streaming or on radio or on television. And then traditionally, if you control your playlist, which means you own a physical product, they get a mechanical royalty. And that came from 1909 mechanical player piano rolls. And the second rule said you pay that songwriter so little that the purchaser of a mechanical player piano roll or sheet music won't notice a price increase.
Yeah.
And number 3, the most evil of all, it's compulsory. So if the public listens to this, a songwriter, publisher, the only time they get to decide who uses the song is the first time. And these days, you'll let anybody use it the first time because those opportunities are few and far between. After that, it's compulsory. So all that background to say this. The Music Modernization Act did a lot of things. One of the most important is it changed number 2. When songwriters go to these government rate proceedings, trials, either an ASCAP or BMI rate court to set your performance royalties, or a copyright royalty board, 3 federal judges in a 5-year-long proceeding to set mechanical royalties, it was against the law to consider what the free market would pay us. Well, what the record labels get in their deal, or if a publisher did a private deal, what'd you get? They could not look at that.
Wow.
Now it is required, and it is better for us. You see rates going up, and we are hoping someday to get in the free market. But that's a challenge within our own industry. And one senator can stop a bill, but we're working on it. So the Music Modernization Act changed that. Huge for us. It created a new agency to license mechanical royalties like ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and others do for performance royalties. It's called the Mechanical Licensing Collective. It's right down here in the Gulch. Sometime late this year, we will start distributing now what will be about $1 billion a year.
Wow.
Most importantly, and I was at the table this day in August of 2017 when the streaming services agreed to all this. And they agreed to it because we were suing them into insensibility. When they streamed one song, one time, that didn't have the proper license, we could sue them. $150,000 in damages and up to 2 years in prison. We don't want to sue streaming companies. We don't want any of this hubbub, and I'm assuming we're going to talk about the devil in all this, Spotify.
Oh, yes.
But you know, we changed some of these things, and part of the change was, in order to not be sued, they agreed to a lot of things, including for the first time ever to pay the collection costs. So other collection societies take 10, 15% or more of the songwriter-publisher money to get it to you. Streaming services pay for the MLC. So it did that. There were several other gains we made. It was an important piece of legislation. Typically, we find a moment when, you know, a perfect bill for us, for anybody, is one everybody will take, but nobody loves.
Yeah.
And that was the Music Modernization Act.
Now, what did Spotify recently do? It was in the past, what was it, year? That they did some stupid, ridiculous, backhanded.
I've got nothing kind to say about it. I use the word evil purposefully.
Yeah, it's
because the other streaming companies don't do this. So stand by.
Yeah.
This is complicated. These copyright royalty board proceedings happen once every 5 years. 3 federal judges are appointed by the Copyright Office. 3 judges, not federal judges, are appointed by the Copyright Office. And we go through a 5-year-long proceeding unless we agree. And even when we agree, it's a 5-year exercise. You're agreeing on the next 5 years' worth of rates. We went through the most onerous one ever. They are called phono records trials. So Phono Records 3 was supposed to last 5 years. NMPA led the charge with us to get the highest increase in streaming for songwriters in history, 43.8%. Now, songwriters will tell you today, and they're right, it's still not much. 43%
I can tell you it's not.
However, if streaming continues to grow at the rate it is or anything close to it, and they keep raising their prices a little bit, down the road, and nobody wants to hear this, but it's the fact. It's not what I do. I'd end it all and put us in the free market, and their prices would be substantially higher. And by the way, they've all raised their prices, every streaming service the past year. And guess what? Have more customers than ever. $20 a month, even 30. It's a bargain. To have every song ever in the history of the world.
$20, $25 to buy a CD 20 years ago.
Look, it hit me not long ago. I paid $20 for lunch at freaking Taco Bell. It's a bargain.
It is.
So we go through this trial. We win. The streaming services pay us the higher rates for a minute. Then they don't. They appeal it. We go through 10-year trial instead of 5.
Wow.
But we win. While that trial's still going on, we start Phono Records 4 in NPA and NSAI. We negotiate a small raise on that. And finally, last December, after 10 years of all this, we're like, now let's talk about how we can work together, how we can grow the whole pie. And it's always been frustrating because when we get a raise in one part of the music industry, does somebody take less? Do the labels take less? No. If the publishers get more mechanicals, do the PROs get less? That had been true historically. But if you raise your prices and grow the pie, we change the conversation. So we're all finally like, a breath. Let's talk about a bigger, larger ecosystem for everybody. February, out of the clear blue sky, unannounced, Spotify does this. So as we go through these trials, there are different configurations of subscription music. You can buy music only. You can buy a family plan where you pay more, but 3 or 4 people can share it. Or you can get a bundle. The most prominent bundle is Amazon Prime. You pay your $120 a year Prime membership. Mm-hmm. You get all the movies and music you can ever watch, and music, and TV. And it's worked. Those were the existing kinds of bundles. But here's what Spotify does. There's a lawsuit. There are other regulatory agencies we're trying to sick on Spotify. But I can promise you this. Whatever the law says, that damn sure violated the spirit of what we were all trying to do. And if they could, the other streaming services would tell you that too. I think it's illustrative. None of them have done this. So Spotify ends music only. Now, the trials and the deal were premised on different offerings, the main one being music only. It doesn't exist anymore. They take every customer in the U.S., 44 million, get rid of their music plan, and move them to a bundle they did not ask for with audiobooks. Stay with me. How much Amazon TV and movies can you watch?
Oh.
Everything. They limit this to 15 hours. I suspect they own some of it. Go try to find it.
Not easy to find.
You will
on the
find
platform.
Noah's Ark before you find these damn audiobooks. Nobody asked for this. Then they raised their price. So the Mechanical Licensing Collective has sued them in federal court in New York, saying, we're not saying you can't bundle, you can't do this bundle.
Yeah.
We, as recently as when we taped this, my colleague Jennifer and Turnbow, and NMPA was part of this too, we're doing it back and forth, have started a pretty substantive dialogue with the Federal Trade Commission. It's a consumer deal too. We're talking to the Tennessee Attorney General and a whole lot more. You can't do this.
Yeah.
We'll see if we prevail. I believe we will. Either way, the clock's already ticking on the next copyright royalty board. We have to start filing preliminary motions next year. We are going to stay on Spotify. They have always violated the spirit of this. It's greed. While they're paying, and by the way, this results in $150 million less just this year to songwriters. Daniel Ek and his number 2 cash in $230 million worth of stock.
Wow.
Be your own judge.
Unbelievable.
There is a book called Spotify Play. It's a 13-hour audio book. It became a...
That's almost the limit right there.
There you go. That's it. Thank you. Point taken. And it's called The Playlist. It's a Netflix series. I don't know how many parts. If you really watch it, it's about greed. That's all
Spotify
this is about.
Oh, yeah.
Songwriters are secret geniuses. Well, they're going to still be a damn secret if they never get paid.
And I mean, layperson doesn't understand what songwriters go through. I mean, we three in this room understand how little we
I'll
make.
tell you what they go through. You're the weird person in your school.
Yeah.
It's that songwriter person.
Yeah.
But it's a God-given, whatever your spirituality is, it's a gift that comes from somewhere else. And it gnaws at you. It's the most beautiful thing and the worst thing that could ever happen to you.
I completely
3 o'clock in the
agree.
morning, I counsel spouses. They do have to write that song right then.
Yeah.
But the great ones, the gift is part of you. So you're the weird person. So it's time to go to college or whatever. And now there's songwriting degree programs. There weren't when I was around. But you go tell your parents what you're going to do. You're going to do what?
Exactly.
After the intervention, and I'm not kidding, you move now these days, if you're looking for the real industry success, either to LA or Nashville.
Yeah.
You go to the Bluebird Cafe, and you were a big deal in your hometown. And you see somebody like Hillary Lindsay, or the other day I saw Ben Gallagher, and you go, what have I done?
Yeah.
And most of them never make it.
Yep.
But you're persistent and you are relentless. And one day, what's that? That's my song on the radio. The next day, look over your shoulder because the next group's coming after you. Now, here it's very collegial. It's very sweet. Everybody supports each other.
Sure.
And, by the way, we've raised it, but in 2017, we did a big event in Congress. We had 5 songwriters, each play one song. Beautiful. Linda Perry, Lee Miller, You're Gonna Miss This.
Yep.
Desmond Child, whatever Bon Jovi song it was he wrote. They each had a co-writer and they each had a publisher. So they own 25% of that song. We played the songs. Even the digital services wrote some complimentary stuff about what we did with NMPA. 2 big screens. We never spoke. We never said a word. These songwriters each had a co-writer and a publisher. Translation, they own 25% of this song. For 35 million streams, they each earned $185.
Are you serious?
Now, we've raised it some since then, but not a lot.
You know what that deserves?
So Spotify, there you go.
That's number 3.
And I am from Henry County. The redneck in me comes out sometimes. I have challenged Daniel Eck publicly to meet me out here in front of Curb Music, and that stands.
Throw some hands.
It is evil. It is greedy. You cannot explain it. And what if the other streaming services aren't doing it?
Yeah.
But if he gets away with it, we're back worse before this ever started.
Wow.
It's amazing to look at my statements quarterly and see Spotify. Like I've
With what?
Exactly.
Microscope?
Exactly. No, it just you talk about the other streaming services. Apple Music pays about double what Spotify does.
Well, and they're not all trying to find some. And now we've got bots.
Yeah.
We've got them owning white noise. And you saw at the MLC, we just had a character rip off from the streaming services and the MLC $10 million. He's going to do some significant prison time. This should be about one thing. A creator-given inspiration that you do that moves the hearts and minds of other people. And all this other crap's in the way. I don't know how you write a song these days.
Yeah.
With all this in the way.
I try not to
Luckily, I
think about it.
think most writers just kind of keep their head ducked down and do what
That's
they
all
love.
they can do. And
that's
they
why
asked
we
me
have-
today, I had a breakfast, and like, do I need to get rid of Spotify? Sure. But that shouldn't be, they shouldn't be put in that position.
No.
Spotify's the devil if it's a tool artists and writers have to use. I will tell you this. They've got to stop us every time. I will live an extra 50 years if it takes it. We are not going to let them get away with this.
Thank you.
It's not going to happen.
Well, thank you for that, Bart. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I've always thought so highly of you and all your hard work, and that's another reason why I want to get you on the podcast and tell you, because you're so
back at you,
eloquent
and
with it. But
you and your company have supported us, and I
well, yeah,
appreciate it, Colt,
because we appreciate what y'all are doing. You
we're
and Jennifer
fighting giants,
and David Israelite. I mean, all you guys are just what you have to go through is just because we don't have that power. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
as a music publisher, we're here to defend and support songwriters, but we don't have the ability to go to DC and educate all these senators and Congress people on what's going on and what's fair and what's not.
Let me say something about that. When I first started this, we get the copyright from Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution. I paraphrase, in order to promote progress in science and the useful arts, Congress may grant for a limited time to. That's where this comes from. Because the founding fathers were authors and inventors. And it's what this nation was based on, was our ideas. From our version of freedom to everything that came after that. And we got away from that. The country got away from it. Congress got away from it. And if NSAI should be credited for one thing, we have relentlessly taken songwriters to Washington. Hundreds, thousands, and told this story. It has changed. We've still got some naysayers and detractors. We've still got some states where they don't not like the songwriters, but they're always going to look at the tech companies first. But we've changed that feeling, Colt, on Capitol Hill. I didn't change it. The songwriters changed it.
Yeah. And they're really the only people who can, because in their own right, songwriters are inventors of an intangible creation. And when you put them there in front of those people who don't even know anything about songwriting or publishing or how to even craft a song, and you show them, and I know you'll appreciate this, because for me, whenever you go to a songwriter round and you hear the song from the actual songwriter when they're singing their hits that other people recorded, for me, that song is way more special hearing it from the songwriter and the way they wrote it. Oh. And so I'm sure the people in the Capitol Hill they've got to feel the same way, because they don't have that exposure here like we do.
Tricky. I have been known to find out what song was played at their wedding.
Oh, sneaky.
But look, it matters. And at the end of the day, I have maybe done 3 trips to D.C., and I've done hundreds that I didn't take a songwriter with me.
Yeah.
They're the most powerful calling card. They move minds. I'll ask this audience. We're going to take a 3-second pause. What's your favorite song ever? Somebody made that up.
Yep.
Based on life experiences.
Right.
It took them 20 or 30 years to get to a point where you heard it. Even if they made some money, they owed it all back. So understand that. And because publishers are taking a big risk and giving them advances to pay the bills while they try to do this.
Right.
And thank you for that, Cole.
Of course.
And thank you for the integrity of this particular company. Curb's done well by its writers. But, music, what's more important? To me, it's with food and air.
Yeah.
It's right there.
And, from David being the first guy to sing a psalm on a hill to God and his father Solomon, it is part of our culture and history, and it always will be. And we're not asking to get rich. We're asking for something fair.
Fair compensation.
I think a lot of it's lost on people in Congress and senators or whatever it is, and just people in normal
the general
people,
public.
General public. They see Tim McGraw singing. They see, famous people, rich people singing these songs.
And they think they wrote all those songs.
They think they
by
did
the way,
these.
I have never taken an artist to DC. Love the artist. I take songwriters, and I'll often take one that had one big hit ever.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of them that move that member of Congress. Then we start doing the math, and they're like, what? And that is one thing that I will credit NSAI for. We have changed hearts and minds, one song and one songwriter at a time in those offices.
Yeah. Well, you put the face. You put the face that depends on that.
And the heart.
Right. And the heart behind that song, behind that craft that needs that money, that feeds their kids, their families, that, this is their job. This is their driving a train. This is their working in a factory,
Sure.
And it's being taken away. So God bless you for this.
Yeah,
I'm going to get really angry at Spotify right now.
I'm privileged to get to do it, and I mean,
it's a special trade. Not everybody can write a song. Not everybody can play an instrument, and I think we're kind of similar. We grew up with very musical backgrounds, but I didn't get the musical talent. I can't sing. I can't really play instruments, but I love music.
You can't sing,
but I know I can't.
No,
but. I've always appreciated songwriters, and I love music, and that's why I'm sitting here today.
I'll quote my late friend Mark Germino. I don't know if you knew Germino. We just lost him. He was the Bob Dylan of Nashville, and from one of his songs, "This Is For You," Colt Mursky. He's pretty good looking for a guy around here.
Hey, I'll take it.
I appreciate you, Colt. And I also want to give a shout out to AIMP that represent the independent music publishers, because we've kind of all done this together.
For sure. Yeah.
No, man.
Were you part of the Elvis Act?
Big part of it, but let's get credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
So Tennessee is one of 3 states where your image and likeness is your property. And that goes back to the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA. They represent the labels, making that a law in 1983. So we chose Tennessee first, and we updated that law. And the Recording Academy did a lot of heavy lifting on this too. But Elvis stands for ensuring likeness, voice, and image security. That bill did several things, but the main tenets of it were to add the word voice, to make sure it included the internet and YouTube and all these new AI-generated things, and it preserved our ability to go local court. Let me come back to that. One of my biggest challenges, if not the biggest, is to boil down a complicated issue to some congressional staffer who's got 75,000 meetings that day or a member of Congress. So we appointed a task force 2 or 3 years ago of our board. And we came up with the 4 Ps when it comes to artificial intelligence. First is permission. You should not be able to take any songwriter or anybody's property they worked their whole life for, learn from it with the express purpose of that software to steal your job. Permission is the first P. You don't get to ingest anything without the owner's permission. Number 2, payment. We don't want some government set rate like commercials, film and TV. We want to negotiate it. If I'm a songwriter and AI uses dun-dun-dun in an episode of something, not much money. But if they use my songs, and especially if I'm a film and TV writer, to create all the music in a 10-part Netflix series that has 8 seasons, that needs to be some money. And whoever created it should be able to decide that in the market. Number 3, and this is probably the most important, proof. We want generative AI to send a record, everybody's version of ChatGPT on your phone, wherever you've got every iteration of generative AI, to send it to the cloud. And in case we decide to challenge it, we'll see what it listens to. Now, the government's chomping at the bits to get involved in that. Never been good for songwriters, but that seems to be their regulatory role, to monitor the proof. There are a couple bills that take different approaches to that. I'll speak about in just a second quickly, but the final one is penalties. We want to go to a local court, which the Elvis Act lets us do. Graceland will go to civil court in Shelby County a few times a year. Get him off that T-shirt, Elvis. You can't use his logo. Or you can't use Elvis on your hotel name. And if they don't do it, an injunction is filed and civil penalties start immediately. You know how to stop bad behavior? Pocketbooks. And we preserve that here in Tennessee. So that was the Elvis Act, the first to put guardrails around. And by the way, with a very contentious state legislature, just like the music modernization in Congress, our stuff's in the Judiciary Committee in Congress. It's the email servers. It's January 6th. It's Benghazi. It's all the politics. It's one side shooting at the other. But we passed it unanimously through those committees in the whole House, as we did the Elvis Act. So I'm convinced music unites even politicians. Now, there's more bills introduced. There's one in Congress called the No Fakes Act that emulates the Elvis Act to a large degree. Tennessee Senator Blackburn, Democrat Chris Coons are the primary sponsors. There's several of those. We've got another one called the Copied Act. Their approach to proof is a little different. It's sort of watermarks ChatGPT or other AI.
And that helps trace the original source file,
the original source file. There's a half dozen others being contemplated. We were on the phone today, Jennifer and I, talking about one that Chairman Issa is probably going to introduce. Nothing will happen this year. I'm not sure much happens next year because what happens, these 100 different bills. The Music Modernization Act started as 20 or 30 different bills.
Wow.
And at a moment, we came to what can pass and what can we all agree on. And there were some that didn't make it. Broadcasters paying artists a royalty didn't make it because it was not going to pass. We support it, but it's not going to pass. So we put together a package, and that's what will happen with AI. It's called an omnibus bill. That will get things music-related, things medical-related. My prediction is we will see something substantive probably late next year or early 26.
Nice.
But we got out in front of it. Also on this topic, there's a bajillion court cases. We are part of an important one, along with the publishers, against a company named Anthropic. If there's ever been just outright horse thievery on AI, I mean, and I'm buying a fairway to Levin. I mean, it's we're going to win that.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of activity, but this is something your kids will also be talking about.
Gotcha. Wow.
It's ever changing, man. I was sitting in a write the other day, and it's the first time this has ever come up with me. We were talking about an artist. We were gearing a song toward an artist. I mean, writing it with the full intent of having this artist cut it.
Which meant it'll be a huge cut for somebody else.
Exactly.
100%. Yeah. But it was like, hey, can you throw his voice on here? And I'm like, are you really going to do that? Like,
That's weird to me.
He's like, I'm going to put his said artist's voice on this. And we had a meeting the other day, and the A&R for this artist was like, he likes to hear his voice on songs. So if you have AI generated stuff, you can put his voice. I'm like, my mind is blown with this.
You know what Mr. Zimmerman said, don't you?
Yeah.
The times they are changing.
Man, they are changing.
They are.
It's not. I don't know. I don't know. I'm a
look,
fossil.
at the end of the day, just write the best song. I'm proud of the work we're doing in MPA, a lot of others. If there's any good news, it's a more receptive audience than we used to have, and we're more out in front of this.
Yeah.
But it's also the existential challenge.
Well,
this has to go right for creators.
Well, we thank you for what you do for us. I thank you for what you do for me and my family.
For sure.
And please don't stop.
Well, we won't.
So NSAI is a non-for-profit, and I know it's very probably heavily funded by the industry itself. Is there a way for people outside of the industry to support it if they wanted to?
You can join. You can make a contribution. NashvilleSongwriters.com. My email is Barton, Barton, at NashvilleSongwriters.com.
Make the checks directly to Bart Herbison.
Well, some days I wish, but and pay attention to our social media. Here's another hard thing for us. Most of this is done behind the scenes. What can we do? I can't take every songwriter to D.C., and we got a hell of a board. Those 27 songwriters give a lot of their time. And when bills happen, when we do have to engage the public, it used to be you'd know weeks, months ahead of time. Sometimes it's a day or two.
Yeah.
So when we put out the call to call your congressman or write, do that.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like much, but it's still, as dysfunctional as this system may be, it's the best one ever. And we've utilized that to make some pretty big changes.
Nice.
So fund us, support us, watch what we do, NashvilleSongwriters.com, our Facebook page, our Twitter, Instagram, all that. Because when we need your help, it needs to be then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, songwriters.
And with AI, that's coming up. By the way. There will come a moment where it's like, now.
Yeah, so respond to the call to action.
Yes, please do. And if you're not a songwriter, please respond.
And join. Yeah. It's a couple $100 a year, and that's your tithe. You know, there's this whole thing about songwriters need a union. Let me explain that. You don't want a union. I come from a union family. My father was United Auto Workers. But unions are for a collective wage. Does every songwriter get the same deal?
No.
Okay. Should they? Should they? Well, it's a marketplace then. But who's the union going to sue? The government?
Yeah.
In many cases, you can't.
Yeah.
And this is political. One political party's never going to support anything a union does. It's just the fact. What songwriters are really trying to say is we want a magic wand. There is not one.
Nope.
Change is hard. It's slow. It's incremental.
It's expensive.
So here's what else songwriters can do. Come over and do a workshop on Tuesday night. Oh, my God, NSAI wants me to come do this. Well, we have thousands of hobbyists that aren't trying to be professional songwriters. That's for them. Mm-hmm. Every small thing we ask helps us fight this fight. And by the way, the last time we were victorious over Apple, Amazon, Pandora, Spotify, Google, some of the largest corporations in the history of the world.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're right.
Yep.
And that's how this all works. So help us when we call.
Help us.
You got it, man.
If there's anything we can do for you, if there's anything I can do for you.
Jill Moody's going to call you about a workshop.
I'd love Jill.
Come do it. And
absolutely love Jill.
And, it's fun. Yeah. Nothing I like better than talking about this.
I would be happy to.
Well, I'm serious about that.
I'll be happy to.
You're very eloquent, and I think you could you could help some of the up and comers.
That is
David
the
does
first-
read at a sophomore level.
That is the first time in my life I've ever been called eloquent.
Well, I am.
Thank you.
He's blushing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Have you ever in your life spun a wheel of shame?
No, but I've been looking at this.
You
thing since
have
I
been
came in.
eyeballing
your best
this
friend.
I have
since you came in.
I wallow in a lot of shame. So, okay, let's see what this.
Well,
is
you're
all
going to
about.
wallow in the wheel of shame.
All right. So tortilla slap, Old Smoky, wake the dead.
I don't know. You can't tortilla slap Bart.
Well, he's got to land on it to get it.
Well, I know.
Oh,
but
so
you-
I spin it right now?
Yeah,
you
okay,
can spin it right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
Off this mic and, well, I gotta get
oh,
you go
oh,
ahead and get you a good spin. There you go.
Oh,
Wow.
my favorite color. I am hypnotized. It's one of those little things in the middle, like, oh my God, very Twilight Zone.
I think that's the hardest it's ever been spun.
I got a good spin on it. Let's see. It's going to go yellow. Tortilla slap.
You
Is it
did
really?
not.
Swear to God.
Oh my God.
Slap me upside the head with the tortilla now. You better put
wait,
your
do
left
we have
arm up.
tortillas?
I don't know.
Well, you got an envelope over here. I don't get to give this back to y'all.
Paper tortilla. Oh.
Oh my God,
Are they
that tortilla's
hard?
got green mold on it. It
Think
looks like
you should
boogers.
spin again.
All right, Bart. You've been saved by the.
You
By
have
the
been
songwriting
saying.
Let me see
angels.
that tortilla before we get off. Come here. Let me show you the good sport I am. Let me see that nasty package of biology. Listen to this, y'all. Hey, look here. One cheek. I slapped the. What brand is it? Pueblo.
Bart slapping himself
Out
with
myself.
not just the tortilla, but the whole package.
I just
of
wanted to be a
tortillas.
good sport about it because I love this concept, and one of those is appearing at NSAI tomorrow.
Is it?
morning.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Do we have? Does he have to? do
Yeah,
you think-
let's do one more spin.
Okay.
And then we'll get on to the initiation phase.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I got to get a hold of this.
Yeah. Get a hold of it and spin it like
There you go.
a real.
go.
I got to buy new tortillas.
Yeah.
Obviously,
That's,
they're
now has
green
cheek
and
cells
hard.
Those
all
are
over
those
it.
are at least a year old.
Well, it's got Herbison DNA on it now. So America. So you know that Lee Miller was testifying in Congress, and the guy from the streaming services was saying something, and he said Lee's title wrong. Lee goes, "That's not the title of my song. It's this, and words matter."
Yeah.
And when we get back, because Lee had told a joke that I won't tell, Nicole Gallion had gotten a hold of that, and it was hashtag Lee Miller, hashtag words matter, hashtag America.
Okay,
that guy.
Bart, you're a very educated man and very smart.
Eloquent. See, I
But
use that word.
how good is your American trivia?
We'll see.
From 1776 on.
Do you want to pick a card?
Yeah. See this one right here. No, here we go.
Wow.
No, the one under that, but that's fine. I'll take that one. Oh my God, that's like 7 cases of Trivial Pursuit over there.
So, I mean, you're a guy who's been on Capitol Hill many times, visited the D.C. area many times, so you might know this one.
We'll see.
Who was the first president to live in what is now called the White House?
Oh, I think I know this one.
I'm going to go with, and I don't know this, I'm going to go with Jefferson.
I'm going Lincoln.
No, it was way before Lincoln. Way before Lincoln.
Okay, you're both wrong.
Then one of the Adams boys.
Okay, you're getting really close.
Okay.
I don't know
George
which one you're thinking
Washington.
of, but it's John Adams, the second president of the United States. When Adams and his wife, Abigail, moved into the mansion in 1800, it was known as the President's Mansion. President Theodore Roosevelt gave the White House its current name in 1901.
Oh.
There you go.
And did you know there are 132 rooms in the White House and 32 bathrooms?
See, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, the movie.
I love that movie.
Right?
I love that movie.
But I thought
don't think I've ever seen it.
I thought that I don't know. Yeah.
I'm twirling that
I
out.
love it. It's so ridiculous of a concept.
But it's so
But it's
well
actually
done.
brilliant.
Yeah, it is.
The way they did the Civil. Have you ever seen it?
I know, I haven't seen it.
It's
Colt.
it's
And I'm
Yeah.
a vampire aficionado.
it's a movie. I mean,
this
it's a book too,
Is this
right?
my homework?
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so good.
I love
and then it had all
vampires
the
as well.
rip-offs after that.
Yeah.
Well, wait, do you like the Twilight vampires or the
no.
Anne Rice vampires? I'm the Anne Rice.
yeah.
Oh, Anne Rice.
Lestat's my
I
book.
Yeah.
like dirtier vampires.
He likes the slutty ones. Yeah.
Nosferatu, if you will. Yeah. I just watched one the other day on the plane back from Portugal. It's the one about the little girl.
Oh yeah, what, Abigail.
Abigail.
I haven't seen it yet. Don't spoil it alert for me.
It's real
But
weird.
I'll tell you what, that trailer is scary.
Yeah.
Woo.
It's a good one. It's a good one. What we do now as the initiation into the Twangtown family, and everyone has done this, from Jim Ed Norman to Ira Dean to...
You know I'm in a movie with Jim Ed Norman.
Of course you are.
You know the movie Wheeler?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tomberlin's in it.
Yes.
And I love that little movie.
With Steve Dorff.
I
Stephen
love
Dorff.
If you haven't seen it, Wheeler, Whee. I'm so proud of that little movie.
I'm going to check
That was a
it
great
out.
movie.
I love that movie.
And you were
Proud
in
to
it.
have been a part. I am in it.
Well, you're
With
about to
Jim
do-
Ed. I asked Jim Ed the other night. We sadly were at a funeral or a memorial service. I said, "Have you seen it?" He goes, "No, I'm too vain, man. I watched it like 40 times."
Right? So Jim Ed.
I love that about it.
So you got to spin the wheel of shame, and now we get to do the.
By
what
the
do we
way,
call
see
it?
these whelps on my cheek from this bacteria freaking tortilla stuff
You need
over
to get some
here.
hand sanitizer and
I
wipe your
need
face off.
something.
This is the bottle of shame. This
Okay.
is the Atomic Rhino smelling salts.
Okay.
And like David was saying, this is our initiation into Twangtown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lid off of this, and you're going to hold it about right here and just give it a.
Nothing phases me.
You feeling froggy?
I'm froggy. You don't know where I'm from, man. I'm sure it's like that. Woo! I'm only one on the right side. Did you hear that? Haven't breathed out of my left nostril in 48 years. You know, I might.
Hey, you took that like a champ.
I think I got a little buzz on it too.
Oh. That was good. Well done.
You didn't even flinch.
It almost killed Jim Ed.
Well,
Jim Ed.
I'm a man.
Jim Ed sat there and literally almost fell out of that chair.
Well, but I had to do it left. I don't know how you do it in one nostril. Because I'd have walked around the rest of the day.
I don't know how
the
you do it in
nostrils.
one nostril
I think it's every 2 hours a nostril will constrict and the other one opens up. It goes back and forth all day.
Now I taste it.
What is it? What does it taste like?
I would edit that.
Shame.
Come on,
Sin.
It tastes like butt.
Oh, you guys go.
I didn't know Bart's tasted butt before, but now we know what kind of man we're dealing with.
You know, we have descended into the third pit.
Oh, God. Thank
That
you.
is fun. I want some of that.
Yeah,
We'll get you some.
yeah. Atomic Rhino. Get it on your local
Rhino.
Amazon Prime.
Bart, thank you for being here and sharing
Well, I appreciate
your stuff,
you
man.
having me because this was fun. I really enjoyed it. Y'all are great at this, by the way.
Thank you.
But it's serious stuff.
Yeah.
It is serious
And
stuff.
songwriters deserve. We're not asking for billions of dollars.
No.
Can I feed my kids and buy a house? And
Exactly.
send them to school. That's it.
Taking action is obviously very important, but also education, and that's why we wanted you on here to help educate anybody in town who's listening, but also everyone outside of the business, because they just don't know. And I think the more people who know about it, the more they're going to be willing and to fight for songwriters and publishers and be more compassionate towards it. And we need all the help we can get. Obviously, you and Jennifer and David Israelite are leading the charge on this for us, and Lee Thomas Miller and Bogart and everybody else who's done these things. But but we just need all the support we can get. And so just you coming on and really explaining it better than any of us can.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. And thank you for being here. And thank you for fighting the good fight.
Well said. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Colt, tell them where they can do for us now.
Yes. So we are available on all streaming platforms.
All streaming.
You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, rate, share,
donate,
subscribe,
subscribe.
and also
In a world.
Bart's gonna hate me for saying this, but
No.
earmuffs,
no.
Bart, earmuffs. But Spotify
The
now
devil.
offers a comments feature,
I don't hate that
and
because
we've
here's
actually
my goal.
had some people commenting. So keep commenting and tell everybody about the podcast and share it and support your local songwriters.
No, let's put on Spotify this about Spotify. I actually love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about the problem on their own platform.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
We do have several streams. People stream on Spotify, so
Yep.
is my nose bleeding now?
No, just your eyes are. Your eyes are.
kind of tweaking a little bit.
They are, man.
Y'all come back and see us.
Bye,
See ya.
everybody.
Bye.